You know, last year the legislature drew down about $3.5 billion from our savings account, from a limited savings account. It's one that doesn't get replenished. This year, their plan is to draw down another about $3.5 billion from the same savings account, again, without being able to replenish that account. And one of these boards has that on there. Some of you have seen this before. It tells a rather a graphic tale of what's happening to our savings account. We only have one savings account. It's a true savings account. That's where we are. That's why I'm going to announce what I'm going to announce today, is because of where we are in this regard. You know, a key to what we've wanted to do in the entire process is to make sure there's balance, make sure that it's fair, make sure, again, as I said, no particular Alaskan industry, individual, region carries a greater burden than the other. And that's not easy to do. That takes a lot of pieces. We introduced 9 pieces of legislation specifically to make sure that it was broad-based, that it was balanced. No one piece creates that balance. There's no one. There's no silver bullet that creates the balance. That it takes the whole plan to make that work. You know, the cuts we made, we did not want to make. You know, we didn't come in and say, by golly, let's cut this particular area or that particular area, but we had to. We had no choice. I don't think there's a single cut on there that anybody that you're going to hear about today that anybody celebrated. But it's a matter of we didn't have a choice. You know, we can't create new revenues in our administration. We can only submit bills to get to the legislature, have passed to create additional revenue. We can impact it with the vetoes, and I have, and I'll be talking about that in a few moments. Of the 9 pieces of legislation that we submitted for the new sustainable Alaska plan, not a single one of them made it through the legislature. The Senate did pass the Permanent Fund Protection Act Bill 128. That did pass the Senate. Did not make it through the House. And so in actual bills that have come out of the legislature, there wasn't a single one that addressed that. You know, some months ago, came back on a flight from Fairbanks. Got in about 11 o'clock at night. And somebody on the plane, it was a plane that landed on the tarmac, so you walk in rather than through the covered walkway. And somebody in front of me turned around and came back. He said, no, I want to shake your hand. I said, okay. I shake a lot of hands as governor. Every governor does, and it's an enjoyable thing to do. He said, no, I want to shake your hand because you're a governor that will run to the fire. And what I'm about to do today is we're all running to that fire. And the fire is the future of Alaska. The fire isn't any piece of what we're going to announce. The fire is the future of Alaska. That's what we want to run to, and we want to make sure that we have a future in this state. So yes, we're going to talk about cuts. Yes, we're going to talk about fiscal changes, but it's really what we need to do is we need to address the fire that we face so that we have a future, so our children and grandchildren have a future. I know that's sort of a political cliche. It is until you have children and grandchildren. It's not a political cliche anymore. You can put faces to that statement. We asked each department to come down 20% from 2015 to now, and 12 of the 18 were able to do that. Those were all in the executive branch that did that. Some that had a difficult time doing that. On the Department of Public Safety, very difficult to make a 20% cut in public safety and still have troopers out there doing what they do. On the labor contract, Commissioner Fisher, thank you for your hard work on that. On the collective bargaining agreements, we had for the first time in decades, no cost of living increase in a contract. Thank you. That was not easy to do, and I appreciate those on the other side of the table, so to speak, for what they did. They've accepted furlough days. Sometimes you've heard that another branch of government, the courthouse in Alaska, now close at noon on Fridays. We've not ever done that before. That's part of the furlough program to bring down the budget. They made that concession on their own. In the contracts also, there are health insurance concession as well, that they're now paying part of the health insurance premium contribution, and that's all a direct reduction in pay. But we haven't stopped there. I have reached out to the various union partners and said, is there more we can do to help bring down the cost? And one asked me, they said, Governor, are you asking us to reopen the contract? I said, no, I'm not. I honor the contracts, but as Alaskans, let's continue the discussion about what more we can do as Alaskans to bring down the cost of government. And that conversation will continue on. It'll continue on in a congenial discussion, not in hard negotiations across the table, but in future negotiations, we're going to obviously continue to be mindful of the fiscal situation we're in. I don't want to go through every department's reduction, but I do want to acknowledge a few. If Commissioner Laddick was here, I'd certainly see him along the way. He's a pretty tall fella. Commerce and Economic Development, reduction of 62.4%. That's $25 million. The Department of Education, thank you, Dr. McCauley. Not the money that goes out to the school district for the schools, but the department itself reduced 37%, $21 million. Thank you. Military and Veterans Affairs, Deputy Commissioner Dole, thank you. 37% reduction. That was largely as a result of the no longer funding of the Alaska Aerospace. Department of Labor, Commissioner Dragas, thank you very much. 32% reduction, about $11 million. Commissioner Cotton, 30% reduction to Department of Fish and Game. Thank you very much for that. $24 million. I know these aren't. This is nothing we celebrate. I mean, this is not a day of celebration in any way. This is a day of sort of a day of reckoning of where we are and what we need to do to get through this fiscal times. We can't solve this by cuts. You know, Governor Hickel many times said you cannot cut your way into prosperity, and we're not cutting our way into prosperity. We're using the only tools we have available to us to do all we can to reduce the deficit. On the vetoes, and it's actually vetoes and other savings. The way the budget works, there's some things that we've reduced that weren't actually in the budget. It's a little bit of a challenge to sort of follow all the money where it goes, but I'll do the best. And Pat Pitney is here today to answer questions that I can't answer. On the oil and gas credits, we're the only place that I can find in the world that does it the way we do it. We have a formula that creates a dollar amount per year based upon revenue we've received on oil and gas credits. It's a formula that creates a dollar amount per year that we're obligated to pay. And that this year that's about $30 million is what that formula creates. It doesn't mean we don't owe beyond that. I am very supportive of the independence of what they're doing on the North Slope and then what they've done at Cook Inlet. That was a program that started in about 2006, had a $10 million cap on it, then it went to $25 million cap. 2011, the cap came off, and it went to $700 million and was destined for up in the billions of dollars. We can't afford that with where we are today. We submitted legislation that directly would have resolved that had a soft landing for those companies. We still support a soft landing for those companies. I just can't justify paying all those credits out of our operating capital. There's other ways we can do that. We'll continue to work with them to help them, but doing it out of the operating capital in this budget, I could not do that. I reduced that by $430 million. On the government spending, the K through 12 education, University of Alaska Vetoes, that's $190 million. And on the executive agencies, some of which I went through a little bit earlier, of the 18, that brings it to about $40 billion. Of that 190, about 40 million. University of Alaska, reduction of $10 million. Higher Education Fund, $80 million. Doesn't take away the scholarships, it's just the fund that funds the scholarships. Education and debt reimbursement. We reimburse approximately between 60 and 70% of the cost of schools across the state and local governments, and it's subject to appropriations. We've reduced that reimbursement by 25%, and so that equals about $58 million reduction, and other state debt of $5 million. That's the breakdown of the $190 million. On the mega projects, we're closing down two. One is and you know, I'm a project person. I'm a carpenter. I'm a carpenter with a law degree. I like to build stuff. I ran for governor to build Alaska, not to come into Alaska to balance the checkbook. And we're balancing the checkbook because that's the hand we were dealt. So it pains me to shut down anything involving a construction project or an infrastructure project. But two that we're closing down is one of the Connect Arm Crossing, and the second is the Susitna-Wantana project. We'll do those in such a way that we preserve what the work that's been done to date, but those projects we can no longer continue to advance in our fiscal situation we're in today. In addition to that, we're pausing 8 statewide highway road projects, construction projects. Those 8 projects they're all over the state. They're state funded. Most of our projects are federal funded. These are not. These are state funded, as well as we would require bond issues for that to happen. That's another $250 million that we're pausing those until we have a fiscal plan. Until we have a fiscal plan that we know where we're going to be. We're trying to, companies in situations that we are, they try to conserve cash, and I guess that's what we're trying to do in that particular move. So again, infrastructure projects, road projects, it certainly put a lot of Alaskans to work. It needs to be done. We put a hold on that until we have the fiscal plan with a balanced budget. It's amazing with all we're doing, all the challenges we have. We've lost 80% of our income in about a year and a half, and so it's the cuts we're making are very, very difficult. But the good thing is we're able to afford a $1,000 dividend this year, and so every Alaskan will receive a $1,000 dividend. These are difficult decisions on every single one of these. And if we don't do make a change on the dividend program, here's what's happened. It goes away in under 4 years. If it completely goes away if we don't make a change. If we make the change to someone who's a child that's born today, in 4 years, if no changes, would have 8,000. I mean, at age 18. But with the plan we have proposed, it would be 18,000. So, I said recently, and I have to be careful about this when I sort of go off script. I know some get concerned, but I'm a big fan of sourdough pancakes. And if we treat our permanent fund like we treat sourdough starter, we'll be fine. No one would ever use up all the sourdough starter. The first thing you do is you take it out and leave it for the next batch, no one's ever done that I'm aware of. That's what we need to do with our permanent fund. We need to look to the future, the next generations and generations of the permanent fund, not where we are today. We make no changes at all, it's gone in another 4 years. It'll be something that'll be something of the past. And so that is one of the reasons we are pushing so hard on that. So the total vetoed items is $1.29 billion, with a total savings of $1.5 billion. The LIO, here's what I did on the LIO. I did not make any adjustments to the other 2 branches of government. The judicial branch, they on their own did the furloughs and doing some other things, made some reductions, and the legislature, they have their own budget. But here's what I would say to the legislature. While I have left the money in the purchase of the building in Midtown that you're looking at, I would ask you to do this. Be mindful of what other Alaskans are dealing with in the budget reductions as you see this roll out. And it'll take a little while for people to absorb that. Look at that and see if maybe you could possibly move into the Atwood building. We would move over and make plenty of room for you. I think we've got a few offices on my floor. We'd love to have legislators join us. So sprinkle throughout this building. We know we can make it work. So I left it in your budget, your call, but I please ask legislators to be mindful of what other Alaskans are doing, or what all Alaskans are doing in this time of fiscal challenges. So that's totally up to you. So I left that in the budget. But this is what happens when you don't have any new sources of revenue. When you lose 80% of your revenue and you don't put anything back in the way of the biggest put back in actually was out of Fish and Game. A number of user groups came to us and said, charge us more, please. Charge us more for our hunting and fishing licenses. We're the lowest in the country. Charge us more, and we did. And that'll bring in $9.1 million. That's the biggest fiscal bill we've passed this year was Fish and Game. And I bring that up for a reason. They came to us and demanded that their fees be raised. They didn't come to us and say, raise everybody else, don't touch us. They came to us. I made the signing of that legislation, Commissioner Cotton, over in your offices was very meaningful to me. It was clearly Alaskans pulling together. I know all the cuts that we're making this year does not fix the problem. It doesn't come close to fixing the problem. But the problem is having a fiscal plan. And that's what we presented to the legislature. You know, there were those that have said, you know, we don't need to act now. We have plenty of savings. My goodness. I don't think so. We don't have plenty of savings. We do need to act now. And what they don't understand is the savings is the solution. And it really is eating the seed corn for another meal rather than planting the seed corn so it grows for generations now. The savings is the problem. I mean, it's the solution. So as we continue to draw down on that, it's going to increase the problem. You know, the earnings off of the draw on the savings for 1 year would earn equal to what the income tax would earn. So every year that we don't fix the problem, you can assume if we get the income tax, each year it would be double what it was the year before because we haven't fixed the problem. So drawing down on savings is not the answer. Others have said we need to have more cuts. Well, by golly, we have more cuts. I don't think anybody's going to argue with me that we haven't had enough cuts. This is a very, very significant cuts in the budget. The problem is that when we're out of this account on the savings, which is our only true savings account, then it goes into the permanent fund earnings account. That's where the dividend checks come from. That's when we get to this situation over here by not addressing it. You know, this past special session, you know, Democrats came to me and said they would have voted for the permanent fund restructuring if they'd only gotten a better deal on the tax credits. They only had been reduced differently. Some Republicans came and said they recognize the need for restructuring the permanent fund, but not until more cuts are done. Need to have more cuts. So I now challenge both sides to come to the table because I've done both of those. I've reduced the tax credit, old tax credits, and I have made significant cuts far beyond what they did themselves. So those impediments should be gone for now. Those reasons for not addressing these issues should be off the table. We've taken care of that in what we have done. Many House members came and said, you know, if I vote for the reducing the permanent fund, I may not get reelected. I've taken care of that today. That's off the table. I said during my State of the State, I said, you know, I'll take all the blame, but I need you to do your part. I need you to do the work. So it's about worrying about the future of Alaska, not the future of our political seats that we're in. So there shouldn't be any more excuses. The excuses should be gone. When we come back into session on the 11th of July, I will expect that we'll now finish up the work that had roadblocks before, because I believe I have removed each and every one of those roadblocks. You know, as I said earlier, this is the Fix Alaska session, and it's a session that doesn't seem to end, and I take full responsibility of that because I don't want it to end until we fix Alaska. Next session will be the Grow Alaska, and that's the one that I get pretty excited about. You know, Alaskans deserve a growing economy. They deserve, you know, to have a sense of optimism into the future. And as long as we tow this cloud of uncertainty over us, we're going to still have challenges with bringing industries to Alaska and growing the industries that we have. You know, some months ago, many months ago now, I received a gift from Lieutenant Governor Malott, one that I talk about quite a bit, and I know most here probably said that, but heard that. But let me just say it one more time. The picture is a picture of Metlakatla, and what they're doing is they're pulling stumps. And when they pulled stumps in those years in Metlakatla, they got out a community rope, they tied it on, and everybody found a place on the rope, and they pulled it out. I've had, as I said before, a number of people have come to my office after hearing that story and said, where's my place on the rope? How can I help? One person did that many months ago is now the incoming Commissioner of Education, Dr. Michael Johnson, as it turned out. Not because he asked where he placed on the rope, but just because that's the way it sort of turned out. So now, as a result of what I've done today, in these budget cuts, with a permanent fund check this coming year of $1,000, every Alaskan is now on that rope. Every Alaskan has found their place on that rope is what we do. And what I ask the legislators, come on. It's time for you to find your place on the rope, do your job, and get it done this coming special session.